Are you ready to crack open consciousness, explore your soul's essence, fully step into your divine authenticity, and heal your soul wounds? Then grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's dive deep, y'all. Hey, all you beautifully awakened souls. It's your favorite spiritual psychology practitioner and trauma coach, Alex, here with the Awakening with Alex podcast. Welcome, y'all, to our next episode where we are going to dive deep into consciousness around intimate relationships. And again, finishing or going into the next step in this series is what I call getting off the merry-go-round. And so we want to really get deep into that because, again, this does absolutely apply to all different types of intimate relationships, whether that's your partner, friends, spouse, coworkers. But specifically, this is going to be with your children that I am referring to and going to be focusing in on most today. And so, what do I mean exactly when I say get off the merry-go-round? And so, y'all, when we are in relationships of all kinds, right, we're going to have our disagreements, we're going to have our, opinions and whatnot. And that is normally what makes for an amazingly healthy relationship. However, when things become hostile, even verbally abusive, abuse doesn't have to be just physical, it can absolutely be verbal. When we get into this space where we are in this conflict, maybe we didn't learn how to have a healthy form of conflict with someone else and have those deep discussions where we feel safe and heard and actually can have a healthy dialogue versus maybe screaming matches or just shutting down and pretending everything is okay until one day you explode over, French fry dropping on the floor or something, something little, right? And what does that look like for you? Do you have any relationships like this? I'm really specifically thinking about teenagers and um maybe they are just maybe you're stuck in a cycle of having this conflict with your teenager or preteen and there's just this constant merry-go-round of things are okay, then there might be an explosion, and then things are okay again, and then here's another one, right? And you don't really deal with the problem. You don't really deal with the situation at hand. And of course, it takes two, right? If one person is trying to address this in a healthy way and the other person just shuts down, it does make it harder. However, you can choose in that moment to get off the merry-go-round. You can choose in that moment to not want to continue this cycle and where it's just like we continue to go round and round and here we are again and now all of these needs that are not being met. And I mean, everything from, your child not keeping their room tidy, maybe they're lying, maybe it might be a partner who is doing things they said they wouldn't do anymore, whatever that might look like, right? And we have, explained our expectations or communicated that to the other person about whatever the situation is. And then things keep getting violated and we are in this cycle, right? The behaviors continue. Maybe there's no real repercussions. Maybe you don't know what a good repercussion is. And that's where we're sitting here and going round and round and round. And so I really want to encourage you today if you have any kind of relationship where maybe again like parent child relationship, you can't just be like, okay kid, here you go, bye, underage or under 18 age child of mine that I am legally responsible for. It doesn't really work like that, right? And so how do you handle this situation in relationships that you do need to cohabitate with each other, right, ideally as peacefully as possible? If this is a partner, for instance, who is an adult, of course they are able to make their own choices. It looks a little different than a child. So things might look like trial separation if things are not being communicated or not being met. If it's a friendship, maybe taking a break from each other and, you know, communicating it too, not just cutting someone off and walking away. Communicating what's going on, communicating to you like how you're feeling, what that's looking like. Because if someone is in this constant spiral, well, and I take that back actually, like a friend and stuff, if they're super toxic and you're like, I'm done, It is absolutely okay to not give them an explanation. I want to make that abundantly clear. If this is someone that you're like, or a job or something, right? It's a boss, and it's a very toxic environment, and you are needing to cut it off because it's toxic. It's absolutely not working, and you need to save your peace. That is absolutely okay to bow out quietly and gracefully without losing any respect for yourself. I can't even tell you how many times there's been situations that I have absolutely bowed out gracefully without even saying another word. And it wasn't because I was running from the situation. That's kind of what I really wanted to, I guess, highlight more than anything. Don't run from the situation. If it's appropriate, deal with it, talk with it. Because I myself, speaking from experience, I am more prone to just run away from the situation rather than making the conscious choice of, this isn't worth it. This isn't worth my peace. It's, what is it going to do? At the end of the day, is that going to help, or the situation, is it going to hurt it? Like, what is this going to serve if I stand here and, like, stand my ground, if you will, speak my truth? And more often than not, speaking your truth is absolutely empowering, right? So we want to make sure we're not running away from the situation. However, speaking again from experience, there was absolutely times that I just needed to walk away and just peacefully and quietly, like, not even make a scene out of it, not even try to get attention or whatever it might be. But generally speaking, those are going to be situations that it's like a lose lose situation for you. That speaking up is not going to have any benefit, that it could even potentially have some detriment too, right? So things like that, I absolutely want to make that abundantly clear. However, for the most part, being able to sit there and have these open forms of communication, speaking from experience with my children, has been amazing. And being able to just kind of start cracking it open and not even giving into it. And it's not saying that, like, the other person, speaking in my children, for instance, right now, but, for instance, my children having a really awful day and, like, just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling, and knowing that they are going to be in that space. And as their mom, it's my job to help set the tone and teach them through this, right? It's my job to guide them through what's happening in their bodies right now, how to appropriately express it and move through it. Now, what that does not mean is I need to get back on the merry-go-round with them and join them in their shit show. I do not need to get there and get all spooled up, which I have absolutely done. I have absolutely gotten in there. And then, of course, I'm now involved and my energetics are all in join. And it's a hot mess. And it's, trust me, speaking from experience, don't do it. It's not pleasurable for anybody. And it just makes everybody emotional and tired. And now everyone's exhausted from all of the emotions we experienced, and it's a mess, y'all. Don't do it. And if you have, you know what I'm talking about. No shame, but today we have an opportunity to make a better day for ourselves. And so with that, I want to encourage you that if this is you, and you find your child who is all spooled up, to have a just simple conversation. And you could even ask, can I make a suggestion to help you in this situation? You might get a quick no, no, or, I don't need your help or whatever, right? And that's okay. You don't have to join them back on that merry-go-round. You don't have to get there and get back up and join them in their nonsense. You can let them be. Of course, if it's, someone who is of age who may still be your child, but if they're an adult and things are going on, those boundaries might very well look like not being able to come by until things settle down. Maybe having the next time you meet up, it being in a neutral place, things of that nature. Whatever really works for you. But the biggest thing is, what I want you to do is be coming to this place of conscious awareness, because when we can get to that moment where we are adequately understanding our emotions, where we are adequately tuning into our needs. Are we tired? Are we hungry? Are we sleepy? It can be more empowering and give us a upper hand, if you will, to being able to appropriately handle the situation in the moment, teach our children how to handle themselves in the moment. Or if nothing else, if it's with other adults, you're teaching them how you want to be treated. So if that person is acting a mess and you're calmly like, Mm-mm. No, thank you. I deserve better than this. This is not okay. A treatment. I reject this. Now, of course, walking away ideally would be only done after you've had a conversation, right? Ideally, if it's safe to do so, you address the red flags in the moment. You would, express yourself and how what's going on, like why you feel it's a red flag, like why it's a problem for you, and have the conversation ideally. And then if it happens, then that's when you would walk, ideally speaking, right? And this can absolutely that's part of getting off the merry-go-round. Of course, the being on a merry-go-round insinuates it is a pattern of behavior. So if this is something like, again, with your children, they snap back. Now you snap back at them because now you feel disrespected and upset, or, things like that, right? Or now they snap at you and it's like, nope, I'm not getting on all this. And instead of snapping back and being in those old repetitive behaviors that are not ideal by any means, this gives you an opportunity to change how you want to proceed. Do you want to get off the merry-go-round, or do you want to stay cycling in this behavior system with the individual, and more than likely resulting in the same type of outcome you've had before? Which I'm guessing, if you're feeling like you're on a merry-go-round with someone, it's probably not a pleasant outcome, would be my best guess. And if you're anything like me, it definitely was not a pleasant outcome. So I want to encourage you this week to really think about it. Where are the relationships in your life that you feel like maybe things could be better? Maybe things are just not where you would like the relationship to be. Maybe it's not of the quality. And now, I mean, especially if you are one of those individuals who is, in fact, recognizing that you're going through upgrades. We've had tons of solar activity happening. If you're listening to this shortly after it gets published, there's tons of all of this that is happening. And people are upgrading, people are stepping into their power and their oneness. And it's really beautiful to witness, honestly. It really is. Because and it's such a beautiful, miraculous thing that when we step into our divine authenticity, when we step into our power, when we recognize who it is we are, and we stand in our power to communicate that to people when they push our boundaries, when they violate our boundaries, however that looks for the situation in that relationship. I really want to encourage you to get off the merry-go-round this week. Have those conversations if it's safe to do so. And even with your children, y'all, I can't even express to you how much of a shift I personally noticed with my children when I started communicating to them in a developmentally appropriate way, of course, but communicating to them like what I'm feeling, why I'm, my triggers, like especially working through different things like, my middle son has stolen a lot of money. He's violated a lot of boundaries in our home, specifically towards me. I understand it's resentment logically, and I get it, but it doesn't make just because like, I get it and I understand what's happening in his mind in those moments doesn't make it okay. Right. And so there are things that like I've developed triggers from it. Right. And so articulating, why I'm being triggered right now and recognizing how my body is responding to the situation, to also teach him and guide him. And, no, he's not responsible for me. But you know what? You can't just behave however and expect people to not, have a response at some point. And this is a very fine line, of course. It's not victim blaming, like, "Oh, the victims, it's your fault. Please don't take it any which way." But I mean, if you are sitting there and you are, like, screaming at someone and you're calling them names or you're in their face, you're being highly antagonistic and doing different things, like, humans are human. And so while yes, it's not my responsibility for how someone else acts, it is my responsibility to show up in my best capacity. And if that means I'm being antagonistic or I'm doing things that are really that would make me upset, that's how I always ask myself, y'all, if this is something that would upset me, why would I want to do it to someone else? And that's kind of really where I'm going back to this. And that's something where I really try to instill that in my children, where if you would be upset for someone to do this to you, like if that would make you angry, if that would hurt your feelings, right? Whatever that might look like, Why would you want to do it to someone else? Why would you want to make someone else feel that way if you yourself would not like someone to do it to you? And so, again, going back to that kind of personal responsibility is ultimately what it is. How do we want to show up? What is the responsibility we have to ourselves and those we choose to surround ourselves with, especially in like a family unit with children involved, things of that nature, right? Where it's like, how do you want to show up in your family unit? How do you want to be looked upon? If someone was to look at you purely for your efforts and your merits and like how you show up in the world, take everything else away, just look solely at that. How would you rank, essentially, right? And it wasn't until I myself stopped getting embroiled in their nonsense, stopped allowing them to pull me into their chaos and their arguments and he says, she said, blah, blah. Oh my goodness. It's just, oi, you're like, there's no reason for this. There's absolutely zero reason there should be this level of energetic exchange in a negative way for simply disagreeing. Like, my goodness, y'all, there's a better way to do this. But it takes being calm ourselves and it takes being in that place of conscious awareness of how it is we want to show up. How it is we want to show up with our children, with our spouse, at work, like whatever that looks like for you. Are you ready to get off the merry-go-round of the crazy and come back to this centeredness, this oneness, this connectedness to yourself and the divine, and allow the divine to move in and through you? Or do you want to stay in the merry-go-round? I mean, either way, it's a choice at the end of the day. And trust me, and you know what? There's been times that, like, yeah, my son has absolutely made me lose my temper, and I've screamed at him. And I have told him, I was like, I am so sorry. Like, you don't deserve that. And it's interesting because when I started doing this with him, there was no but you shouldn't have blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. It was just simply taking accountability. I lost my temper. I recognize I'm being triggered because of this, and this is what's happening in my body right now. This, and this is the memories I'm recalling right now because this is why, and I recognize that this isn't why my body is doing this. But I also recognize that I should not have yelled at you, and I'm so sorry for screaming at you. I'm so sorry because you don't deserve to be treated like that. And what was so interesting is when just simply showing up and expressing myself to him. Like he was like 9, I want to say, when we started doing this. And at the time of this recording, he's 11 now. So very fluid exchange happens now. I didn't bring him into, again, oh, but you should have never done blah, 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 right? It's interesting how he immediately started owning up for his own behaviors. And we really made a pivotal turn in his own accountability because I chose, even though, yes, I did engage and, I did lose my temper in that moment, right? And I did scream back at him. But in the past, we used to just kind of like walk away and like, no, no, no. I'm getting off the merry-go-round because I'm taking accountability for me. I'm not doing this nonsense. And if I make mistakes, I'm owning up to it because I made the mistake. And only I can change my mistakes. And only I can be the one that put in the effort. And y'all, it was such a game changer with my son taking accountability, which he really didn't before. And honestly, it was kind of scaring me because there was a lot of things that mimicked his biological dad's abusive behavior. And it was genuinely terrifying for me at the time because I wasn't sure if we were going to make the turn, theoretical turn, right? If you will. If we had a theoretical turn, there was the aim, right? There was the end goal, if you will, for a lack of better words. And, part of my considerations was he just didn't take accountability for it, for anything. And my intention wasn't to make him take accountability. It was because I was taking radical accountability. I was taking radical acceptance and change for the things that I did not like about myself, the ways I showed up for my children, the ways that I started putting in the perspective of if my children treated my future grandchildren like this, how would I feel looking on to it? And I'm not saying sheer chaos I was finding myself in, like the behaviors and, you know, regrettably, I used to tell my son, you'll make a sane person go crazy. Like, nobody can just deal with this level of chaos. No sane person could, right? And regrettably, I would say these things to him, but these were some of my aha moments, these aha things, because I'm just like, like my mind would be blown at the level of shenanigans, if you will, that I'm just like, my mind is blown. How does one individual even conjure up these thoughts to do these things to this magnitude? Like, my mind is blown, child. Not in a good way either. And through me simply showing up and taking radical accountability for my bad behavior, my son started doing just by proxy of me. And so I want to encourage you today that if you are finding yourself on that merry-go-round, whether it be with your child or whoever, to take a deep breath. Remember, you control every bit of you. And if you're ready to get off the merry-go-round, now is the perfect time to jump. And with that, my beautiful souls, I'm going to bring this week's episode to a close. I love y'all so much. I pray you have an abundantly blessed, beautiful week. Drop it in the reviews below this episode. Let me know how this impacts you. Let me know what merry-go-rounds you're ready to go off. Claim it, share it publicly so we can praise and pray over you and with you so that you can have that amplitude of energy added in to your journey. I am so excited for all the beautiful blessings that are coming out of this. I pray y'all have a beautiful, abundant week, and I cannot wait till I catch y'all in the next episode. Now go be great, my loves. And if you're new here, we would love to say thank you. So don't forget to check out the description where we have a few free gifts we would love to share with you and share our appreciation. And if you are ready to jump deeper into your healing, connect with a conscious community where we meet every single week, and sometimes even twice a week if it's the week we have our coaching call, where we go deep into consciousness as a group and as in our private community, where we dig deep into universal law, where we go into meditations, freebies randomly just because I love y'all, and of course, free dibs on everything that is coming up to all of our programs, first drop in all of our information, and of course, the tight-knit, awakened, conscious community that honestly so many people are craving. So if that's you, don't forget to hop on over for just one low price every single month for our monthly membership, where our private community gets together every single week. And of course, we get to share in the conscious awakening. I cannot wait to connect with y'all over there.